It's been more than 3 decades since the first commercial release of a smartphone, and ever since then, we've always had this piece of technology glued to our person wherever we go. I know that the narrative of how smartphones and technology can sometimes do more harm than good to our overall life fulfillment has been discussed widely, but today I'd like to actually explore this topic from a different lens. On the 22nd of May 2026, which was about 3 days ago as of recording this video, a few major cities in my country experienced a mass power outage. There were several sources informing the reason of why it happened, but there were lots of variations to the cause. I'm not going to focus on that since it's less of why it happened, but more to what came out of it. It was somewhat of a coincidence that during that day, I was on a trip with a couple of friends. We went to a mountainous region or area near the city, which meant that we were on higher elevation, lower temperatures, and an overall better experience compared to what people had to put up with in the humid city. We drove there at noon, got lunch, dropped our bags off at the villa, and went out to nearby cafes. Then, when the sun was starting to set, we went back to the villa and played card games, chatted with each other. I even brought my PlayStation 5 with me, and we played some Street Fighter. Not long after, while we were playing Uno at the balcony, the power outage happened, and at first we thought it was just your typical blackout since in my city it's not that rare for it to happen. But after a couple of minutes, one of my friends saw that there were some news published online that this was a mass event that not only happened in our area but other major cities as well. So with that information, we surmised that the power won't be back on for a while. But it wasn't long before what was expected to be a 3 to 4 hour outage to turn into 12 hours and more. I think at some point everyone sort of made peace with the fact that we won't be getting power for a while. So we just sat at the villa, chatted, and shared some stories. But for some reason, I couldn't help but notice that perhaps I internally interpreted this as a different sort of event compared to the others. This friend group that I was with was basically a ragtag group of people formed by one of my friends. And I wasn't really that close with them, but I just saw it as an opportunity to network and get to know new people. Everyone was of a different upbringing, different professions, and age. And sure, I understand that some of them probably had important businesses and companies to run, or if they just had responsibilities to uphold to whoever they were working for. But the whole time during our trip, they all seemed a bit more restless than me, constantly worrying about when the power will come back on, freaking out over their phone's batteries almost running out, constantly checking the news, and even considering driving back to the city, which was a 2 hour drive, give or take, to maybe go back to their homes where they had emergency power generators. And during all this, I felt like it was only me who tried to look for the silver lining in this problematic situation. I saw it as an opportunity to connect with these people a little deeper and perhaps transcend the surface level chatter and get to know each other a little bit better and maybe even get some wisdom out of other people's stories. At some point, some of them started to fall asleep, while the rest were planning to drive to the nearest convenience store or any public area which had power from generators. So we did just that. I joined them and we went to a nearby hotel which had power just to charge phones and whatnot. But for some reason, I didn't think of bringing my phone with me. It was almost like I got a free pass to take a break from all the noise that came with that piece of hardware. At the hotel, we met some foreigners who actually came to the area for some hiking. They were in a group as well. That was the point that also drove the nail in the coffin for me, seeing how there were still people, despite not knowing something like the mass power outage would happen, was still able to plan for trips that promoted genuine interactions and activities. So the reason to why I said at the start of this video that I would like to explore this discussion from a different lens was because typically when talking about being online too much, we would assume that when all of that is taken from us, we'd at least be a little bit more present in life. But this recent experience has really taught me that maybe we are in deeper than we think. Sure, not everyone is like that, as the group of foreign hikers have proved, but there are also a lot of people who are completely absorbed by this piece of technology, maybe more than they care to realize. And it's kind of sad that even when every chance to access the internet is taken away, some people, like me, still struggle to even find the ability to engage in meaningful conversations and make authentic connections with people, even though it almost seems like the stage is set. Let's just hope that it's a matter of wrong person, right time for the sake of my inner peace and not viewing this world with too much of a doom and gloom. At the very least, on the next day when we drove home from the trip, some areas had gotten their power back on, but not from my house though. So when I got back home, I would like to say that I still got a tad bit of positive interaction out of all this. Reason being, when I got back home and saw that we still didn't have power, I took my dog outside to at least get out of the scorching hot indoors and feel the minimal amount of breeze provided by the city streets. During that, I actually had a small interaction with my neighbor. Well, to be exact, beside my house there was a small restaurant/cafe, and the workers were sitting outside probably for the same reason I brought my dog out for. And we had short conversations and the atmosphere felt a little bit more wholesome and genuine. At that same night, I went to visit a local bar I usually frequent, but they also didn't have their power back on yet. So instead, me and the group of bartenders I knew went to the club together, which had power on, and actually had a pretty fun night. Now I know nightlife isn't necessarily the most beneficial or productive thing to do, but nevertheless, I saw both of those interactions with a neighbor and bartenders as somewhat of a redemption from the trip and sign that there might still be hope yet for us human beings to appreciate the company of each other outside of our gadgets and mini computers when they aren't available. So after saying all this, I still think that this can somehow be tied back to gaming in terms of how at times when we're so hyper-focused on things like tackling our backlog, we fail to appreciate the assortment of potential experiences and adventures we have right at our fingertips. Like, when was the last time you actually used the walk feature that developers included in games? I, for one, sometimes catch myself walking through the environments, panning the camera slowly to really absorb this piece of art we've paid for, and which was carefully curated by passionate people behind those screens in the dev studios. Now, I'm not going to be that naive to think that there aren't developers who only think about creating a quick cash grab, but we should also understand that sometimes most of these passionate individuals don't really have much of a say on what the final form of the project is going to be. If you want to blame anyone, blame the higher-ups who are probably looking at their financial reports and looking to milk more profit and who probably never have finished a single game in their lives. I know that these are all people who are still working to make a living at the end of the day, but sometimes there are individuals or an entity who decide on specific game design that was purposefully constructed to extract the most amount of money from you, even if they already make enough. It's just a part of how hedonistic this world can be. I would like you to at least give it a try. Take back the experience that might have been robbed from you. Load up that game you've been wanting to play or continue. Really take in and appreciate every bit of detail, either big or small, and just immerse yourself in it. It doesn't matter if you can only do it for an hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, heck, or even 5 minutes. All that matters is to prove to yourself that you're still able to feel. You're still able to be present and appreciate this beautiful life that we have been given. So that's it for today's video. A bit of a gloomy subject, but I'd just like to share my recent experiences and what I got out from it. since that's why I made this channel in the first place, to share these sort of discussions and in hopes of other people, or at least one person, being able to relate with it and not feeling like they're alone in this. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of this type of content. And with that said, I appreciate every one of you who made it to the end of this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.